Welcome back to Streamline Entertainment. Many of the channels, this is Warlike Roth, he's basically saying that there could possibly be an inquest, and other channels as well. My thought is that there should be. We're just going to listen to a couple of minutes to what he has to say, and I will comment as we go.
Some of the latest news on the Jay Slater case, it appears that there is unfinished business possibly with the likes of Ayub Qasim and his friend Rocky, the two last known guys who were with Jay Slater at the Airbnb in Masca. It's not a guarantee, but they could be further questioned for crucial information and evidence, and that's on the basis of if and when Jay's body is returned back to the UK, and if and when that there is an inquest.
I think obviously the parents would have to ask for that inquest in the UK, and I really do hope they do, because a lot of channels have been talking about this, and I've pushed for it and wanted an inquest, because obviously what this Ayub guy's doing, and obviously getting young people to talk with him online, and it's not good if they're thinking about going to Tenerife or going down the same road that Jay went down.
Based off the family's wishes. So there is a procedure to it. Are the family willing and want it? Who knows? But the main question is, why is it happening now? Why didn't it happen earlier on? Is it just because of the procedure as it's been laid out?
Well, it seems to be, they did say the Spanish legal system that they still got a little bit more investigating, and that I was told that it could take up to like 9 months, but obviously that's not true, and so hopefully the body can go in the next few days, and then they can do an inquest there depending on what the family want to do, his mum and dad, and then move from there, and then obviously bury their son. But it has taken a long time even to sort of get this far, and he's right in what he's saying, that if people can change their stories, or some of the evidence or phones are destroyed, this is the main points that people are talking about. The evidence on these phones would have been crucial, but are they going to be there anymore with people obviously talking about it? I just don't think so.
Because let's not forget that Ayub and Rocky were kind of thrown aside really early on in the case investigation, but they weren't really seen as relevant to the case, even though the persons of interest, last one's known to be around Jay. When Jay got there, and then when he left, there was some value within the case, of course, and you start throwing them aside or brushing them away, they could scatter and you could lose out on things. Who knows, right? But they're going to be possibly questioned in time. I mean, what's it exactly about? Is there any correlation or link to such as that Instagram post, live stream by the likes of Ayub and Rocky, when they're talking, supposedly answering questions, if that's what it was all about in the first place, and the mention by Ayub that Jay Slater had 2 knives on him. Both Ayub and Rocky feared for their lives and felt in danger, and yet it was Jay Slater originally that was supposedly the one in danger, fearing on returning back and couldn't. Was it because of the guys or just a location? Who knows?
If obviously people want to listen to that, they can go on Warlike Roth. He's brilliant. He's also asked some really good questions on the Jay Slater case. You can subscribe to him as well. But like I said, I think that question asked is, why did Jay, if Jay was ever there at that time and did leave in the morning, which is debatable by a lot of people think he might have been hurt or stabbed or even dead before he actually got there. But if there's an inquest, I think we need sort of more truth from Ayub and Rocky. But will we ever get that? It's looking doubtful. But something has got to stop their show. The Daily Record, they have said this was 3 days ago, this write-up, The men who stayed with Jay Slater on the night before he disappeared may be forced to shed some light on the case. The 19-year-old was discovered dead after an extensive search by law enforcement, volunteers and his family in a ravine in Tenerife. Now, as reported by the Mirror, it is understood 2 men who were seen with Teen the night before his death may now be forced to reveal information of Jay's final moments. Ayub Kazim drove Jay back to the Airbnb where the pair spent the night, well, the morning, should I say, if they got back after, 5 a.m, 6 a.m? The night, and was one of the last people to see him alive. Kazim, who is a convicted drug dealer, may be called to give evidence should an inquest feel they could shed light on the case, while another unnamed man could also be called on for questioning. A coroner could also call on Kazim or the unnamed second man to come to speak at the inquest. However, such an investigation will be up to the family's wishes. Jay's body is set to be returned back to the UK, and it will then be decided whether further inquest is needed. Several questions of this case remain unanswered according to the Sun, including why Jay was walking treacherous terrain alone. The Slater family is set to bring the body home to Oswestwhistle, Lancashire, in the coming days, but the Tenerife cops are yet to conclude the investigation. So at the moment, that investigation is still going on. An inquest in the UK will even take longer, and the 2 men who have stayed in the Airbnb with Jay could be called on to answer the coroner's questions and could even face jail time, possibly if they try to lie. Jay and the other 2 men are believed to have travelled to the secluded Airbnb where they stayed the night before Jay quickly left in the early hours of the morning, attempted to walk back to his holiday apartment. Kazim says he spoke with Jay just moments before he left, offering the teen a lift, but Jay refused and got bussed instead, Kazim claims. But actually, Kazim said he would give him a lift back at a later time, if, like I said. There are many twisted stories from Kazim and Rocky, and a lot of it still doesn't add up. A preliminary autopsy shows Jay was found with broken bones, with initial evidence pointing towards Jay falling to his death while walking the rough terrain. A fundraiser from the reparations of Jay's body has since passed 70,000 from the 5,600 donations Deputy Jay's mother wrote in an update. We want to give our boy the send-off he deserves. Yeah, so that is the most of it. Obviously, as public, still got many questions that hasn't been asked. Is some people think that he did take the rough terrain, and if he did, why go off-road, and why attempt to go down mountains which are treacherous? And he must have saw where he had to go. I don't believe he did. I don't believe he actually got that far myself, but others can have their own beliefs in actually what happened. I do think something happened the night before, or that morning, or the morning Jay went missing, or that evening before. Those last 2 days are very crucial. I think the beach definitely has a lot to do with him going missing and probably hurt there. And there are videos and pictures of I should say pictures, excuse me, of him being in the back of a car, and it's quite sad that he may have gone through a hell of a lot before he was finally killed. But that's my thoughts anyway. People have got their own views and are entitled to it, but to me, I think that I would definitely will go along those lines in what I've heard and seen. So many videos and so many write-ups from different people. I went back to Peter Bleksely, an ex-detective, was talking about the case earlier on and what was missed. This is very, very interesting. So anyone who hasn't seen this, Peter Bleksely, he talks on TV, lots of different TV shows, he's an ex-detective, UK detective. Listen to what he has to say. This is really important.
A very interesting development in the last 24 hours or so, in that one of the men who we know that Jay travelled with in a car from Playas de las Americas to the Airbnb apartment in Masca has come forward and said, yes, it was me. Jay was in my car. He was alive when he got to the apartment and he was alive when he left. But there's a very interesting twist. This man apparently has a criminal conviction going back some years for wholesale drug dealing. Serious crime, organised crime. Call it what you will. He has been convicted of that. In the very early stages of the investigation, the Guardia Civil almost dismissively said, yes, we've spoken to the two men in the vehicle and they are, quote, not relevant, unquote. Well, if I'd been on this investigation, I would have wanted all options to be explored, to not rule anything out whatsoever, and to be able to say a sweeping...
Very true. And to be able to let these guys go with the spirit at the moment like it was nothing, that I was bemused by that. And I was saying, I bet these, because first thing that came into my mind, these guys or their bosses are paying people off, or the councillor in the area is you know, or the owner of the B&B as well. There's something in this and it's not good.
Statement like that so early on is very surprising, especially when we take into account that just a couple of days ago, plainclothes police officers with forensic overshoes over their day shoes were seen coming out of the very same apartment. Now, with regards to the collection and retention of forensic evidence, there's a saying in policing that goes, you only get one chance to get it right. So were these officers going back to the apartment over 2 weeks after Jay had gone missing to do some kind of forensic examination? If they were, that raises some very serious questions about the efficiency, about the thoroughness, and about the competence of this entire investigation. We know that the Spanish police focused so heavily on this mountainous terrain around Masca because that was where they deployed their dogs, their helicopters.
I think that what should have happened myself is that Airbnb, which AYUP booked, that should have been the first port of call from there. Especially that people were saying that it could have been droplets of blood on the doorstep. That's one of the reasons why it was painted out. And if there was a body in there, I'm sure a cavity dog, or what they call it, may have smelt something which had been suspicious earlier on. I mean, this case was definitely a balls up from the early days. And I think a lot of that were people who paid off at the top not to say anything. That's why we haven't got the questions, the answers, should I say, in the questions we asked weeks and weeks ago. What about this? What about that? The watches, the Airbnb, the checks, who was there, who wasn't there? We just don't know. If that was me investigating it, no one would be going home until they were properly investigated.
To their drones, the mountain rescue team, people from the fire service and their own officers. Now, Jay was a 19-year-old lad from Lancashire who, as far as I know, had no outdoor survival training or special skills, the like of which you might get in the military, for example. Therefore, I think the likelihood of a young man with no such training surviving out in that kind of terrain for what he is approaching now 3 weeks is highly unlikely. I think the investigation has, rather embarrassingly, had to rewind itself to a certain degree by sending officers back to the Airbnb. And there are still questions that are being raised that have not been answered in any way, shape, or form. For example, the reports of a Rolex watch being stolen. Has that been completely bottomed out? Has the victim...
I don't think we've had any officer or Spanish from the police department or chief come forward about that watch. Not a dicky bird. Not an absolute dicky bird, which is absolutely disgusting, because that could have told us a lot about what this case was about, but nothing.
If indeed such a crime took place.
Very true.
Has the victim been traced and interviewed? Have other witnesses who were in the nightclub at and around the time that this watch allegedly was stolen, have they been interviewed?
Say goodbye to old costly cable TV once and for all. This revolutionary invention gives you access to your favourite channel.
Witness statements been taken. I think because the Guardia Civil so clearly put all their eggs in the one basket, in other words, search that mountainous terrain, that perhaps now they're having to rewind, go back over previous steps, and in fact do investigations that perhaps should have been done over 2 weeks ago.
And what we do know is that Ayub, his friend, Brandon, went home the next day, which would be the 18th, and they should never have been allowed to let go. And a lot of witnesses who were at that club as well, who probably knew what was going on. They were friends and friends who knew each other. There was an anonymous person who was giving messages, who was hanging out with them. We're all, yeah, we've got these messages, but they should have been handed into the police a long time ago. It really should have been. This case have been a bit of an F-up from the start, and we could have had a lot more answers to what could be. It's not proven yet, but like I said, there are, I think, enough evidence out there to confirm that he could have been murdered, and that will always stick in my head. Yes, if people want to think he walked off a ravine, then you think that, but it's just not in my head to actually think he would walk that way.
Mayor of the region where the apartment was, I don't think has been entirely forthcoming. In fact, I'm hearing reports that he's denied access to some CCTV. Now, I'm not in a position to corroborate whether that is actually true or not, but let's remember that a mayor in a region such as this in Spain does carry some considerable power and has to stand for re-election. This island is so heavily dependent upon tourism. Is there a reluctance on behalf of the police to actually delve as deep as they should do into the murky world where we know there are drugs? We know that with Tenerife, other Spanish islands, and the costas in southern Spain, they are heavily populated by criminals, organised criminals, from the Russian mafia to local criminals to British gangsters and many more. Do they not want an accurate picture painted of what this area is like? And is that in part a reason why there may be some reluctance to delve as deep as I feel they should do? Had this disappearance happened in the UK, for example, and it had garnered as much publicity and public interest as this case has done, then I think we'd have seen a very different approach from a British police service.
I agree. I think we'd have had a lot more answers and even a conviction. I really do, because I think the British police service would have been on top of this very quickly. Peter Bleksely, I do think that he come up with a lot of stuff the British public wanted to see. 90%. I think that B&B should have been cross-examined very, very quickly, which it wasn't. The cars also, the hire cars, should have been investigated. What time? The watch, that was very important. If there is a watch stolen, investing people who were in the nightclub, that had been a bit suspicious. A lot of these people have gone home, forgotten about, probably have deleted a lot of the footage or got rid of phones they should have. Too much time has passed for us to get an accurate account of really what happened, I think.
Certainly a family liaison officer would have been deployed to be the kind of go-between between the family and the senior investigating officer, to provide updates, to gather background information as well on Jay, any of which would be, of course, naturally helpful. And I think we would have seen greater communication between the investigation and the public through press conferences to which the media would be invited. So there would be a regular flow of information as and when the senior investigating officer deemed it appropriate. All of this seems to be lacking considerably here, and I really have an awful lot of sympathy for Jay's parents, his brother, and others who loved him, because they are reluctant to criticise the Spanish police. They want to keep them on board, understandably so. It may be that they harbour concerns that they are not going to go public with. I am glad now that they have the assistance of the Lucy Blackman Trust Global, the charity which has experience with people missing abroad, and I hope that they are to bring them some comfort and, moreover, some guidance as to what they need to do now and in the future.
Peter Blakely, I thought he came up with some absolutely brilliant points there, and I do think that a lot of the questions he said, which the public, we should have had answers for, that hasn't happened, and the investigation stinks, and a lot of it is to do with that being the owner and not showing camera footage he should have done. Was it to cover the mafia? Were they scared to rock the boat and unearth a lot of people? Because if you're going to do that and expose the mafia, you've got to go all the way, which could mean a lot of people losing a lot of money. I think people were paid off. Not to say anything, I do believe the people who saw Jay said that they saw him. I just don't believe he was actually there at that time. I believe that something did happen at the beach, and possibly even if he did go to the B&B, I don't think he was alive at that time, and everything was made up from there. But that's my personal viewpoint. It's like I said, everyone has their own viewpoint, and I respect that. Don't forget to subscribe to Streamline Entertainment, and I thought Peter there, ex-detective, come up with some brilliant points there. I think the investigation, especially in the earlies, was an absolutely shambles, and most of that evidence is long gone, which could have blown this case wide open. Thank you for the old subscribers who supported me from day one, and all the new subscribers, thank you for supporting me. Appreciate that.